This happened a few years back, around 2016. My girlfriend at the time, Erica, and her friend, Elle, decided we would make spring break plans for the four of us. Myself, Erica, Elle, and her boyfriend, O. We thought if we booked together, we would get a better deal on the hotel and maybe the car rental and any places we wanted to go to. We went with Mexico because my girlfriend had been and she spoke fluent Spanish, so we thought we would be okay. I had been working a lot more to save up for this, so I decided to put it all in my name so it would all be together and they would then pay me back. Obviously, I wasn't worried about my girlfriend, but I didn't know her friend and her boyfriend much. But stupidly, I trusted them. We went to a few parties and they were there. The guys seemed okay. They had only been together for like a year by the time we went on this trip. He was quiet and stuck around Elle, but I thought it was just because he didn't know a lot of people. Nothing odd ever stuck out to me. So, as we started going through the reservations and plans, Erica decided it would be easier to start a group chat with the four of us to make arrangements. I hate group chats. She knows that, and she also knew that I was down for whatever as long as it was within our budget. But I think she may have done it for a reason, as I started realizing. As she would ask in there what hotel they may prefer and if they wanted any specific accommodations, I would see Elle start typing, and then O would always answer. He was always curt with his responses and would not budge on what he wanted. He wanted separate rooms, not even one of those joined rooms. It had to be completely separate. If we did a car rental, he said he wanted one for himself and then we can have another one. We were trying to do this as a group, so we weren't planning on getting more than the one car, but he was adamant he wanted one and wanted it in his name then. So we agreed, but said he would have to pay for all of the car because I wasn't going to be paying for something I couldn't even use. He went silent for a while, and after a few hours, Elle actually responded saying she would pay for it and to put it in her name. So I guess we finally agreed to that. After 2 long-ass days of figuring everything out that should have only taken like 2 hours, and more money that we intended to spend, we were finally booked. But I was supposed to be paid back for half, so I wasn't as concerned about it. We had 3 weeks before the trip. Elle and O said they would pay part of theirs next week when they got paid, no problem. Next week came around and Elle gave my girlfriend the money for the car. Not a word from O on any of this. Elle had told my girl that O was going through things, apologized he hadn't sent the money, and would do so next week. Wouldn't you know it, it was the next week and he still didn't pay. So I was actually being an ass and put in the chat that I appreciated Elle paying us for the car so quickly. This money was going to help with our food, anything we wanted to buy, and for any emergencies, so yes, I was depending on getting that back. Literally within the hour, Elle called Erica and said she was sorry and that she would help pay it back, and that she would help take care of our meals if it's not paid back by then. I did feel bad because I didn't feel like it should have all been up to Elle. I didn't expect Erica to pay for all of it either. That's just the right thing to do. Because of this, I let it go because I wasn't going to make this girl I barely knew pay for my food. Anyways, onward to the time of the trip. Erica and I had someone drop us off at the airport. I'm the type to always be early, and so we were there an hour before. Erica messaged Elle to see how they were doing, and they didn't respond. It wasn't a big deal at first until we got closer and closer to the time, and she finally responded saying that they were almost there. I wanted to board the plane instead of waiting on them, but Erica insisted we wait. Again, I was glad we did because when they finally arrived, he looked pissed and was only carrying a duffel bag. I may not be a chick, but I definitely packed more than a small duffel worth of stuff for a trip for 5 days to a different country. In the same manner, Erica was excited, and as most women do, she was wearing a nice sundress and had her makeup done. Elle, however, had her hair in a messy bun and looked like she just pulled something out of a basket. No makeup, but she looked exhausted. She was also rolling behind her 2 suitcases. Not unusual for a girl, but also not usual to see her with some girly bag and matching carry-on, and then a dark blue one. I'm thinking, is this guy really making her pull around both of their bags? I remember Erica running up to Elle and grabbing one of her bags and said something to her that I couldn't hear. O walked up to me, his manner completely changed, and trying to act like we were best buds. It was a weird situation, but we boarded, thankfully, and we were on our way. Once we finally get there, it did not get better. We got the car with no issues, but the hotel was not at all what we were expecting. The pictures must have been when they first opened because it looked run down to hell. The outside just looked sad. The inside wasn't much better, but at least the AC worked. The lobby had a small desk to the side with an older lady at it. Erica started speaking to her to get us checked in, and she led us to our rooms. The halls were musty and the wallpaper was warping towards the top. The carpet was also old and stained by the many feet that walked down the halls too, and the rooms were not much different. The bed was big and comfortable, but I couldn't tell if it was a cream color or if they were supposed to be white. It also reeked of cigarette smoke, and there was supposed to be non-smoking. So not a good start, but the lady was really nice. She even spoke English and asked if we needed anything, so I couldn't bring myself to complain. We decided we should go find a place for lunch so we can just forget everything and start having fun. We left our stuff in our rooms and headed out to find a place. There were a few buildings that were boarded up nearby, so we had so many eyes on us. It was not a good feeling, so I tried to keep Erica close. We did find a place to eat, and most of the time there, the girls talked and I joined in every once in a while. I tried involving O as well, but he wasn't interested. He was on his phone most of the time and would look over at Elle sometimes, and she would quiet down. I was starting to not get a good feeling about this guy. Little things like this would happen everywhere we went. We would start having fun, but he wasn't hardly laughing or joining in. He was on his phone, a lot. On the second night, we went to have drinks. This was the first time he started loosening up and was kind of fun to be around. However, Elle now started looking nervous. Sure enough, we all learned he wasn't a fun drunk to be around. After a while, he became really aggressive, groping and being inappropriate with not only Elle, but the servers as well. When confronted by another server, he became angry, yelling and threatening them. I tried to calm him down, but he acted like I was the enemy too. He did end up punching someone there, and of course, we were kicked out pretty fast. Of course, being the foreigners, people must have seen us as problems, so other places weren't letting us in, so we just kind of got screwed. I told Erica we should probably just go back to our rooms for the night, which she agreed. Elle asked if we all wanted to just hang out together, and O refused, so we all went our separate ways. I could tell Erica wasn't feeling good about this either. So we went back to our rooms. It didn't take long, but we started hearing a lot of loud bangs, like doors slamming. Erica asked me to go with her to check on them. I didn't hesitate. Our room was in the same hall, opposite side and 2 down. We could tell as we got closer, the banging and now yelling was coming from their room. I knocked on the door and no one answered, but all the noise stopped. I knocked again, no answer. Erica shouted out asking Elle if she wanted a soda from the machine, and the door finally opened. It was O. He didn't have a shirt on, and his hair was a mess, and he had like scratch marks on his chest. Erica tried to play dumb. I know her, she's not one for confrontation, but not me. I immediately asked where Elle was, and he said it wasn't any of my business, and tried to stop me from coming in the room. I tried to push my way through when he immediately slugged me. All I remember after that was us going at it for what had to be a few minutes when Erica yelled at me. I managed to get O back enough to get the door closed and him out. He was trying his damnedest to break that door down. When I got over there, Elle was in the bathroom curled up in a ball with blood all over her face and welts and other marks on her arms. Erica said we had to call the cops, but I said we needed to figure out a way to get out before he got in because the windows didn't open. After what seemed like forever, the slamming finally stopped. I went and checked the door and he wasn't there. I opened the door quietly to make sure he wasn't hiding around the corner, and when it was clear, we took Elle to our room so we could figure out what to do next. That's when she told us that O had been abusive for a very long time, but he hadn't gotten this physical before. She said that she tried to avoid being alone because she knew he was already so pissed that it wasn't going to end well. They went to their room, she went to take a shower, and that's when he laid into her. She also said she doesn't know where he got it from since he's been here, but he pulled out a knife on her and told her he'd leave her here and no one would find her. Again, Erica suggested we call the cops, and we did, but they didn't do much as expected because he was nowhere to be found. We, of course, suggested she stay in our room tonight, and then we just go home tomorrow. Problem was, Elle's passport and belongings were in her room. The police were still there, so we asked them to stay long enough for her to get her stuff, to make sure he didn't show up, but somehow he managed to go back into their room in between then and took almost everything. He took her purse, including her wallet, which had her money, cards, and ID, and her suitcase, but luckily not her carry-on, which she hid under her side of the bed, and she kept her passport in it. Unfortunately, she expected this to happen and wanted to be safe in case something did. We slept the most we could. We started packing up to leave the next morning, and I told the girls to stay in the room and I would make sure our taxi to the airport was here because, of course, he took the car. I was glad I didn't put it in my name, but felt bad that Elle did because who knows what he's going to do with it. The path was clear, so I walked our stuff out to the car and got the girls in when I noticed a car in the parking lot sitting there on. It was him. So I tried to stay calm and rush the girls in without telling them. I didn't want to worry anyone, but I did text Erica to let her know so she at least knew the situation. The dude followed us all the way to the airport. He sat there in the car though and didn't get out, which was odd. I shuffled them out, got in the airport, and tried to buy tickets as fast as we could. I had to use a credit card, but I didn't care. I was not feeling too good about this, and Erica could see the fear in me too. Unfortunately, the closest thing we could find was a flight to the neighboring state that was starting to board, and I just took it so we could get out of there. We stayed in South Carolina for the night and then flew home from there. Sadly, Elle had to stop her credit cards and her debit card because he apparently tried to get home too. Erica told me Elle filed a restraining order and never heard from him again, thankfully, but news always spreads. We found out that he was arrested on domestic battery charges a few years later. I hope that girl was just as lucky to get away from him though. Overall, don't go on vacation, especially somewhere you've never been. with someone you hardly know. Every summer, a group of my friends get together to go on a week-long vacation. There's usually 4 of us, but this year, we bullied our friend into bringing her girlfriend too. We would decide on a place and a couple of activities to do in the area, and then we'd rent a condo or vacation home so we had the whole place to ourselves instead of going back and forth between hotel rooms. We all agreed on Utah as we wanted to go hiking in the national parks. We found a small home for a great price. It didn't have many reviews, but the ones that were there were all great. It was a 2-bedroom with a sectional in the living room, as well as one of those giant recliner chairs. Plenty of room for all of us to hang out and sleep. We went in late June. We all met up at Layla and Desiree's place, as they agreed to drive this year, as Desiree had an SUV so we could all fit better. It took us about 20 hours or so to get there with little issues. Thankfully, Layla is also good with cars, so I was grateful that she came with us. The house had a pin lock, so no key needed. It made it so much easier on 5 people. We got in and it looked even better than the pictures. When we weren't outside, we were definitely going to be spending a lot of time in the living room, and I called dibs on the chair the moment I sat in it. There was a huge flat screen with 2 racks of movies and TV shows. They had stocked up the kitchen with tons of different snacks and foods with a long shelf life. Different granola bars, chips, popcorn, dried fruit, bottles of water, and the fridge was like a small liquor store with beer, wines, and mixers. There was even a small pool in the back that was full and kept clean. The bedrooms had a king size in one and a queen in another. Layla and Des took one room, Natalia got the other, and Alma, Hannah, and I took over the living room. There was a note on the fridge with rules and requirements, like the normal that we see in these places. Usually they just post them on the rental site, but sometimes you may find them in the rental or additional requests. The rules had a lot of the normal: no smoking, if you break it, replace it, contact for any maintenance issues, etc. But one of them was different. It mentioned keeping the shower curtain to the right, as it allows the light from the window to shine in and help with drying the floor, preventing mold and mildew. I didn't know how any of that worked, so it made sense to me, so I reminded the girls and moved on. Once we got all unpacked, we went to the grocery store to pick up a few things to make our own dinners. We then just had a nice night in while we determined our plans for the next few days. The next day, we went to Zion National Park. It was one of my favorite parks I had gone to. There were plenty of trails to walk on, but there were also a few streams we ran into that we took advantage of to cool off. We may have even filled a bottle with some of the water as a nice reminder of the time we had. By the time we got all the way around, we were hot and exhausted, so we picked up food and brought it back to the house. After eating, I decided to go take a shower. As I went into the bathroom, I rubbed my hand against the wall to turn on the lights, and as I did, I saw what looked like a light that was coming from the shower. I turned the light on and saw nothing. I turned the light back off and still nothing. Thinking I was just seeing things, maybe the moonlight from the stained glass window or something, I moved on with my shower. The rest of the night went as usual. We drank and talked until we passed out. The next day, we decided to make it more laid back. We went shopping, found a local place to eat, and then would head back to go swimming. Once we got home, Natalia wasn't feeling well, so we decided to skip swimming and watch a movie instead. As we settled in with our snacks, Des was picking out a movie. She pulled out 50 First Dates, one of my favorites. When she opened it, her face changed from all smiles to confusion. She said it was a blank disc that looked like it was a homemade video with the title, young couple 2018. We were confused by this, but poor Layla in her naivety thought maybe it was the owner of this place and that they put it in the wrong case. Based on the look on Desiree's face, we both had the same thought. She put the DVD in the player, and to our disgust, we were right. This was home footage of this very place. The worst part is, this was coming from the bathroom. That's when it clicked in my head, the light I saw in the bathroom. I started telling them about what I saw, and Des told me to show her. I followed her to the bathroom as we started looking around based on the angle of the video we saw. She rubbed her hand along the walls, and right between two tiles, toward the top, she could see a small gap in the caulking. After looking closer, she could tell there was a small hole. She immediately told us to get out, close the shower curtain, and shut the door. Now, it was obvious why they wanted that curtain in that position. It kept the view of the camera open to the rest of the bathroom. At this point, we had called the cops. All 5 of us had showered, dressed, and used that bathroom. I know I speak for them as well when I say I felt violated. By the time they arrived, we had already packed up all of our stuff, and in tears, we explained what we had found. They saw the video, they saw the spot where the camera was in the bathroom, and without us realizing, Des had gone to the bathroom. They stayed in and found one in a vase of fake flowers on a corner shelf. It was buried in between other little belongings, so it was just as hard to see. Who knew how many more cameras there were? I know the owner had been contacted. The cops had to call the vacation place that we went through to get his contact information. We all pressed charges, and he tried to say it was for security. Don't worry, that line didn't work because he wasn't allowed to put them inside the home, only the outside. Oh, not to mention, keep the recordings on top of that. We did get a full refund from the company, thankfully, because we had to get a hotel room. We thought about going back home, but Des wouldn't let us back down. She convinced us not to let that stop us and ruin our plans. Unfortunately, we are too afraid to rent from individuals now with this in the back of our mind. But we agreed that Des should be a permanent addition to our trips due to her attention to detail. We just spend a little extra money for a bit more peace of mind. This happened to me when I was still in high school. I lived in a fairly nice neighborhood. There were hardly any police around, unless Mr. Jefferson on the corner called about a noise disturbance. There was a younger couple that lived across the street from him, and they always had parties for any event and almost every weekend, and he hated it. Otherwise, the neighborhood was peaceful and everyone got along. I was one of the younger boys in the neighborhood that would rake leaves, shovel snow, walk dogs, and I got paid for it too. I was 16 and made my own money to do what I wanted with it. I also had started house sitting for a few of our close neighbors too, and those were some of my favorite times. I would go over to their house, and if they had animals, I would feed them, let them out to play with them, and just chill. Most of the time, they had snacks and drinks that they said I was welcome to as well. I had 2 older brothers, so I didn't normally get to watch what I wanted on TV, so I'd enjoy a soda and watch something for a few hours before I left for the day. One summer, our neighbors 2 houses down were going to be going out of state for 2 weeks to see their daughter in college and asked if I would watch their house. They said they would pay me $100, so I was in. I could ditch my friends for a few hours early each day and make some easy money. They had some pretty simple requests. They had a dog, so I would feed and water, let her out back, and clean up after her. They asked me to get their mail and to flush the toilet if I don't use it, otherwise it drained or something and messed up the pipes. Then, of course, just clean up after myself if I made any messes. But otherwise, I had free reign of their home. I had walked their dog Penny plenty of times in the past, so I knew her well. She was part lab and very kind and playful. She had a dog bed in their back office, so when I would come in, I'd holler for her and she'd come running up to me. I'd let her out back and we'd play fetch for a while before going back in. The first few nights went as normal. I remember I had gone back over to the neighbor's place for the second time around 7 or 8 at night, as it was just starting to get dark. My brothers had a few friends over and they were starting to annoy me, so I used the neighbor's place as an excuse to go over there and get away for a while. I came in and Penny was already at the door waiting for me. I thought she probably needed out, so I went to open the door, but she didn't move. She sat in the kitchen and just stared at me, so I shut the door, gave her a treat, and went to the office to play a game on their computer to kill some time. Usually Penny would come back to the room and sit on her bed, but I noticed she never followed me. I went to see where she was when I noticed her on her back legs, trying to look out the window to the back door. I tried opening the door again to let her out, and she just stood there with her tail down, looking out back and then at me. I was kind of annoyed, most likely due to my brothers, but this added to it, so I shut the door and tried to push her away from the door. She again would not move. She actually fell over and just laid on the floor in front of the door. As I was becoming more irritated, I gave up and decided to take a shower to chill out some. While I was in there, I started hearing their home phone ring. Sometimes they would call if I was there to check in or leave a message on the machine for me in case they forgot to ask me to do something. Not thinking much of it, I just made a mental note to check the messages when I got out. While I was drying off, it dawned on me that it only rang like 3 or 4 times, so maybe it was the wrong number. Then I started hearing Penny barking. I got dressed and went out to see what she was barking at and noticed she was again staring out the window. I went to open the door again when the phone started ringing. I went and picked it up and it was Marianne, the wife that lived there. She started asking me all these questions, like if I had a friend over there with me or how long I had been in there. I was trying to answer her all while trying to get Penny to stop barking when Marianne noticed this as well and asked her what she was barking at. I tried explaining that she had just been staring and barking out at the back window. I then heard her tell Martin in the background to call 911. That's when she told me that she just called and someone else had answered the phone. She said it sounded like an older guy trying to sound younger, like me. She asked who he was and where I was, thinking I had brought a friend over when the guy hung up on them. I certainly didn't bring anyone over with me, so she told me to take Penny out the front door and wait out front and stay on the phone with her. At this point, I was freaking out. I was alone, or so I thought, and someone else appeared to have come in while I was in the shower. I grabbed Penny's leash and finally got her to go out the front door with me while staying on the phone. It felt like hours standing there, looking around to make sure no one was hiding. My dad and my brothers all ran over thanks to Martin calling them shortly before the cops arrived. I explained what happened the best that I could, and then they walked around the house to see if they could find anyone. They saw footprints along the side of the house that went to the back door. They dusted for prints on the outside knob, but I don't know whatever came of that. They didn't normally lock their back door. They left it unlocked in case they were ever locked out or if their older kids came over when they weren't home. However, they also didn't have a very secured fence to keep people out. You could just lift the metal latch to get in, meaning anyone had access to their yard. They didn't end up catching anyone that night, and I had to have my mom or dad go with me for the remainder of the time that they were away. I think they ended up coming back a few days early. They paid me $100 and also gave me a gift card for something I don't remember, since I had to go through that. Sometime that same year, there was another break-in, and the people that lived there actually came home while they were going through their stuff. They caught the guy though, and it turned out it was the same one that tried robbing the house I sat for. The scary part was that the guy had a knife on him. Who knows if he did when he broke into the house I was in, but it was pretty terrifying to think about. What could have happened if I was still in the office, or if I had walked out of the bathroom to answer the phone? On a better note though, they did put up a privacy fence after that and started locking the door, so my parents and I were both more comfortable with me going over there alone for future trips. I also pay more attention to Penny when she's acting differently. I think she was trying to tell me there was someone out there that shouldn't be. So always lock your doors and trust the dog's instincts. Alright, so that was a collection of vacation stories. This is one of those times where it's obviously a bit of entertainment, but also educational or lesson learned, I suppose. Hopefully nobody has to experience something like these, because vacation should just be for fun and to get away and not deal with these types of things. So if you did enjoy this video, please do give it a like below. And if you'd like to hear more content like this, consider subscribing if you haven't already. Bring your friends, there's always room for more. And lastly, don't forget to leave a comment on your thoughts, which story you like the best. And do you have any vacation plans or a memorable vacation that you'd like to share? I'd love to hear about it. And with that being said, friends, I do hope you have a fantastic week. And until next time, take care.